The following is a presentation of the Controltrends podcasting network.
Right, recording has started. 1, 2, 3. Hi, welcome to Control Talk. Now, your smart building video cast and podcast for the week ending September 15th, 2019. This is episode 330, where we talk about all things smart building controls and HVAC controls and whatever else we want to, because your coach and mine, the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only secret agent man, Kenny Smyers, is well-versed in so many topics, and he is going to give you the inside skinny before we even get started on Antonio Brown, that Pittsburgh wide receiver who's gone to New England Patriots and has Bill Belichick's hair falling out. What's going on, Kenny Smyers?
Well, I have AB's rookie signature, and I thought he was one of the most amazing athletes I've ever met in person. He's not a big guy. He's 5'10", maybe, 190 pounds, rocket muscle. He's gone through the challenges of fame. He's hit the big time. He's, in Pittsburgh, he walked on water, and everybody loved him. And then somehow, the last year, the relationships inside the team deteriorated. And next, he's been ostracized. He goes somewhere to Oakland, and it sounds like he's going to get a good fresh start with a great quarterback and keep things going. And now he's in mud. He's got another terrible thing that he's got to deal with as far as accusations or whatever. We don't know anything about him, so we'll keep off of that. But I'm sure he's going to give Mr. Belichick a run for his money. Because
no. Hang on a second, because if you want to know about Antonio Brown, you got to watch a show called Hard Knocks, the Oakland Raiders training camp. Okay, so he did everything from coming in with frostbite feet to not liking his helmet and refusing it. Kenny, by the way, I'm not going to wear these regulation headphones anymore, man. I don't like the way they fit. They're messing with my game, so I'm going to put everything on hold until the NFL changes its rules.
But what if we offer you a lucrative contract, and instead of you not liking it, you endorse it? How about that? How's a couple million sound?
Not enough money, because I may be, man. But anyway, you get it. All right. So anyway, if you're an NFL fan, that's going on. Why is that relevant? Well, it's not really, but Kenny, I like talking about something. Again, he's the man to myth the legend.
Eric likes to stab me in the side and the stomach with needles about Pittsburgh and about some of the characters we've had, and I don't. It doesn't bother me. I mean, I think the Steelers were so horrible that first game that I haven't been repaired yet. I haven't healed. I haven't healed.
Right. Atlanta Falcons are the same way. So the good news is that means Kenny and I are over football season already before it even starts, and we can focus more. But Kenny, hey man, we got two great guests lined up.
We sure do.
Got some great content. So hey, before we get started, a couple things on the website we wanted people to be aware of. So how about running them through that real quick?
Well, sure. As everyone knows, it's like a golf course. There's some parts under repair. There's a big, better website coming, so we're minimalizing the post, but we can't ignore important dates and times and trainings. Webinar on Belimo Retrofit Overview, September 25th, 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Link Spring, also coming up even sooner. All Things Edge, Wednesday, September 18th, 2019, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. So, or daylight time, whatever you prefer. But a lot of good content. We're feeding information into Controltrends. As you had mentioned, there's kind of a consequence because all the stuff being posted between the transition period won't be available because it'll be lost in
right.
digital space. But
right. So it's good
but going to the incredible guest interviews we've had, the string, these two guys coming up here, we're not lowering the bar. We've got some really. We're very fortunate that the people in the industry that are changing, making the needle move, are coming onto our show, and it's a great opportunity, and we really appreciate it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Let's put it in football parlance. I mean, if the Controltrends guests were like fantasy football players, you want to have these two guys on your fantasy Controltrends team. So, Kenny, first guest is from Siemens. How about introducing him?
Love to, Eric. Love to. We have Bill Vargo from Siemens. He is the senior product manager for thermostats for Siemens North America. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Thanks. Welcome, Bill. Man, glad to have you here. So, Bill, I got to start off right away, man. Because it's like Siemens is one of the premier, smart building controls companies on the planet. I mean, you're the big 2 or 3, right? And you guys got all these really sophisticated building automation systems, all this kind of stuff. But for our community out there, I mean, what roles do you see thermostats playing, especially communicating thermostats, even standalone thermostats, in this age of IoT and IoT devices?
And I think you hit it on the head, IoT, and that's what a lot of people are afraid of. And our thermostat fits right into that space. So the new RDS 120 and RDS 120-B smart thermostat plays in that IoT, smart buildings, smart energy, and has that sleek look design, not like the old commercial thermostats that are the old white, ugly looking thing that you're like, I really don't want that on my wall or in my conference room. The new one looks much, much better.
Dude, I hate to say this, but, because, Kenny and I are a bit older and and I think we're hearing that a lot from people going about us. We want sleeker, better looking men in our lives as opposed to the old guys with all the functionality. But I think you're right. I think design does matter. And that seems to be a trend with Siemens products. I think from your sensors to your thermostats really have a very sleek look. And that seems to be a very important thing, especially with architects for buildings and even homeowners, right?
Yes, I have one. I put it in my house, and as long as my wife's not complaining, it looks good on the wall, she's happy. And everybody that I've shown this to, this particular product, they like the design, and that's where the trend's heading. You'll see a lot more, I think, in trending on thermostats going to that sleeker look, because if you don't, it's just another piece of something on the wall that somebody doesn't want to buy.
Bill, and you're absolutely right. And we have one too. I was fortunate to get a Siemens demo there, and I was very impressed with it. Very pretty, very intuitive. And we'll go through some of those feature and benefits. But yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody that Siemens actually has an enormous product line of thermostats. You have from standalone, basic, single stage heat, cool. But just tell us about the complete line before we start focusing heavy on the RDS 120B.
So yeah, we have a complete line of thermostats from communicating to non-communicating, and the trend is really going to the communicating thermostats is where a lot of the trend is going to. And when people sit there and and you can still have a communicating standalone thermostat, and that's what the RDS 120 is via this Wi-Fi. It provides you that opportunity for access, and that's what people want, is access to home automation, to automation of anything that's going on. The trend from refrigerators and everything is going to be interconnected in your house. So the thermostat fits right in there, but it's also standalone. It doesn't have to be interacting with anything else, and provides a lot of data and insight into how your home functions, how you energy saves, many different opportunities.
Well, I think, you're really hitting on something, because one of the trends that Kenny and I have been tracking is it's like, oddly enough, it seems like what's going on in the home vis-a-vis things like the app, like you guys have for your thermostat, is what the new tenants are demanding in commercial buildings. So the contractors have to sort of be aware of that. So it's interesting, because it seems like this thermostat can play in multiple places, residential or buildings. Accurate?
And that is exactly the way it plays. When you sit there and you look at it, everybody takes, they say, home is home and work's work. That's not necessarily the case. You take what you experience at home and you take it into the workplace, and they want that same home comfort and feel in the workspace and that control capability. Well, now with our product, you can do that. So you can have small, light commercial spaces, small residential, or even multi-use spaces where it's commercial on the bottom and yet residential on the top 3 floors. Or we now have it where we've included this with BACnet, and we can take it to, let's say, a 300 foot condo building and have that same access and same feel on one thermostat.
Okay, now that's a key piece, Kenny, and I want you to hop in on some more features. But to me, if I'm a contractor, and again, time is money, right? So you got, if I have one of your thermostats on the B model, which is BACnet, even if they don't want to connect it right away, I can sort of future-proof that thermostat by putting the B model, and even if it's standalone, because later on I can use the BACnet feature and bring it into a building automation system, right?
That is correct. Because that feature's in there, it's just a matter of when you want to access the data. And it's all about BACnet being able to access the data into that building automation system. And what do you want to do with that data, and how do you want to manage and control that information?
Well, I think that, in reviewing the history, Eric and I have done numerous trending of the thermostat itself, the race of the small space, the individual room controller, the total room automation. We've really, and I'm seeing that this thermostat here, in a comparison of the other leading brands that were primarily residential, and I won't go into names here, but one has to do with birds, and the other one has to do with anyhow. So the criteria of a thermostat and bringing the most feature benefits, the biggest bang for the buck. I think Siemens has basically raised the bar, because there's more to the thermostat. Like you were saying, I love the mobile first thermostat. I use my thermostat. My thermostat sends me alerts about potential flooding, weather reports, because I put the web services into the thermostat, which now constantly updates and adjusts the conditions that I have the set point for, humidity, temperature. But Siemens has introduced indoor air quality with a sensor that's kind of a very interesting, because it's basically measuring VOCs in volatile organic compounds. It also does an energy consumption feature that is above and beyond what the other thermostats in this category. The commissioning to put the thermostat online has actually been reduced down inside of 5 minutes. I think you say 2 minutes, and then 6 sensors. So let's start with the sensors. Tell us about the sensors and what that does to a space, and how it makes the people inside of it more comfortable, more productive, and more in touch. So they can mobile first to the thermostat and change things and read things.
Correct. And that's a key. I mean, we put 6 sensors in our thermostat, and the reason being, then you don't have to put external sensors, and we still have the capability to add 2 more additional sensors if we really wanted to. It's all about setting it up so that the user gets the information that they need and is key. And by doing that with our 6 sensors that we put in there, it allows for that, right? So it allows for the user to not have to do certain things and just take a look and go, wow, what is it doing in my space? Can I change the temperature? Can I do certain things? We have what we call a green leaf optimization, where the leaf itself is green because you're following what you set the parameters for it to do. Well, every once in a while, my wife gets warm or cold and changes the settings, right? Well, if I want to go back to those settings and I can't remember what they are, you just select that leaf and it goes automatically back to that. You could do it via the app or in front of the thermostat.
Yeah, our wives hate that feature.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, because you can change it whenever you want.
Right.
But also part of that is, you want to be able to not remember what things are and just one click of the button. Like if I leave the home, I want to just touch one button and go, okay, I'm away, go to unoccupied mode. And it's going to, once you set it up, it kind of functions all by itself and provides that information. You talked about data, and we provided, when we first launched the product, we just showed run hours, right? So we showed how many hours per day you're heating or cooling in a nice bar graph. Well, we took that one step further. If you look at the app now with the update, we've taken it where you can now look at any particular time of the day, select it on a different chart and go, here's the time, here's what the set point was, here's what my room temperature was, and also humidity. So we put it all into one particular app, and you can just select it at any point in time and go, is my unit controlling the way I want it to, or is it out of whack?
Well, we've had numerous cases where we used to have to put in the little data monitors because we had such a problem with schools and commercial buildings where they were saying that tenants were saying that it was too cold, never was in set point. So having the archiving ability is remarkable, and having that publicly availed so that the user themselves can see that this thing's maintained dead on temperature, set points in the plus or minus in the degrees. But I think
Kenny, hang on real quick. I want you to get that. I just want to stop for a minute and pause on it, because that is such a great point that you brought up, Kenny, because I don't know about you, but you've had so many contractors. We've both sold so many contractors over the years. And again, getting back to the contractor being profitable, I mean, how much time and money do you have to spend if somebody says they're uncomfortable? And like you said, we've sold a ton of data monitors in the past to prove that things function right. The fact that this thermostat has that in there, it's easy to access, it's got to be huge for the contractor that's doing service work, I would think. It could be a huge feature.
And I think that's key. So not only the user, but then you add in that backnet. So all those same points are now pulled in via backnet over IP, and you can access that same data. And so you can access that in your building management system and throw that in there. And now you have even more data and analysis to provide that information.
Right. Especially with energy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, especially, but again, for me, it's like, just how can I avoid a headache? In other words, there's a saying, what is it, Kenny? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Just the fact that we know that temperature is so psychological and that people are going to complain about temperature, and the fact that you can, again, for very little money, even if it's standalone, go in and be able to get this and show, yeah, we're at that point. It's not our problem.
Well, you know, and two, it's not just temperature all the time, because humidity plays a big function in comfort.
Yes.
And mildew walls. We had several applications where these people design these great houses and commercial buildings, but because they're designed so funky, it's very difficult to maintain the right humidity. It gets a little too humid. It starts turning the ceilings gray and the walls gray, and it was because we had no ability to control heating and air conditioning to the effect that we could prevent this. And then also the very important thing here that we don't want to lose is the future proof that Eric was mentioning. The ability to get updates via internet is remarkable. So every time you guys make an improvement or add another algorithm to, you know, some sort of energy savings or some sort of data collection, that how does the user that has this thermostat on as well, how does he get those updates or she gets those updates?
So if you think about it, think about your smartphone, right? The same way your smartphone gets updated, it's the same way the thermostat and the smart app get updated. It's seamless to the user.
Nice.
It's if we find that there's an issue with something or an improvement that needs to be done, we can sit there and target and update the thermostat itself. All the settings stay in there, so it doesn't affect the user. So we can download those directly via the internet to that particular over-the-air to the thermostat, and then we also update the app. So we're constantly evaluating and taking improvement ideas and suggestions from people and go, is this a value add or is it not? And we can add those at any particular time, and it's zero impact to the user, to the management, to anybody who's who uses that particular product.
And just to be clear, that's awesome. About the 6 sensors, I'm just going to review them because I don't know if we did that. Temperature, humidity, light, proximity, occupancy, and VOC. And also, so then you put this in a commercial application, you don't need to put an additional occupancy sensor in the room because the thermostat can handle that because it has an occupancy sensor on board, which helps you, again, maximize your energy efficiency. So not only do you have a schedule, but then you also have the occupancy feature that can get you even more tighter savings.
Correct.
But VOC is new, not new to our industry or new to HVAC, but to the thermostat world. I don't think anybody's introduced a VOC. Tell us a little bit more about how the thermostat is able to give you an indication of what your air quality is.
So air quality is obviously not only heating, you know, and cooling is a comfort level, but people are more concerned about the air quality that they breathe and what's going on with the air quality in either your home or in the space that you're in. So on the particular app or on the app, it tells you whether it is, I'm forgetting the exact names that's on there. I think it's good, poor.
Yeah. Good, okay, and poor.
So that's on the app, right? But then on the thermostat itself, it also shows you a world symbol of green, yellow, or red. And what you can do is you can connect things to that for an outside air damper. So and set the parameters and go, hey, when the air quality gets to this, open up the outside air sensor or air damper and let some air in from the outside to air out your space to make it a little bit more viable, breathable air. You know, I mean, it doesn't give you the numbers, but it at least tells you, hey, what's going on in the air and in your space, right? And
absolutely, yeah, that's a great option.
You know, and I think, you know, one of the trends we've been tracking again, and this is great because it seems like what this allows is for the smaller customers, retail spaces, whatever, get some of the benefits of the bigger ones. And one of the trends, Bill, and I know you guys are doing this on your big building automation systems that we sell, is, you know, you're focusing on the customer experience. And, you know, the CEOs are getting more and more involved in, you know, we want to have the tenants to have a great experience. And, you know, this VOC thing to me is great because, like, if I go to a restaurant and I know they're filtering the water or whatever, I feel a little bit better about eating the food, right? But, you know, now you start thinking about it. I mean, it gives that smaller sort of landlord through his contractor the ability to go, yeah, you know, we're monitoring the air quality. You know, you're going to get good air quality in here. It's something that they can market if they want to. So again, it's, you know, the enlightened contractor can sell this feature and differentiate themselves from other people. Because again, I mean, it seems like a little thing, but if I walk into a space and I see a sign, by the way, we're monitoring air quality to make sure you have a great experience, I'm going to remember something like that. Just as walking into a space, I've got to choose between two restaurants, for example. I'm going to choose the one that's probably got, you know, the food's equal. I'm going to choose the one that's got the, you know, got the water filter and got the better air quality. Why not? Because people are more concerned about their health. So well thought out, very well thought out.
Well, Bill, what's the next on the roadmap? I mean, the way things are going, the way we see it is, so on a macro level, the Department of Energy says that we have an extraordinary number of buildings that have no more control than simple on-off thermostat control. Some of them have schedules. Lighting is running rampant. People don't turn off their lights, and nobody really cares about it because we have this thing called light litter, where if you go past somewhere and you see a fire hydrant and water's exploding out of the fire hydrant, you call the fire department and you get all excited about that. Or if you see a fire, you call the fire department. But you can drive past lights all day and night and not even think twice. This also would have the ability then to control outside lighting or set of lighting with the additional inputs?
It does not. I mean, the thermostat itself does not have that capability, but integrated into a BMS system, or, we have Desigo Control Point that we also sell, that can control those lighting things. So we have the capability in smaller and not large BMS systems. We have Desigo CC, which is our large, obviously, opportunity. Sure. We also scaled that down into smaller opportunities at a much less cost with Desigo Control Point, where now you have lighting, you have the ability to do lighting, HVAC, shades, all in one small package that you can combine together as that user experience, right? And I think that, when you differentiate into space and you start, how do I sell my space, right? What makes me different? And how do I gain that advantage over somebody else's space? And I can show, hey, come rent my condo because you get X, Y, and Z, and this is what it's going to save you or do for you. Where if you have that on and off one, you're kind of stuck, right?
Well said.
Value add.
Yeah.
Well said. So, Bill, man, this thermostat is just so powerful. I mean, I know it fits probably so many different customer sets from your guys' perspective, but describe your ideal sort of customer that you designed this one, and realizing that, owners are going to want it. We realize that this kind of goes across multiple customer sets. But for you guys, when you were designing this, who's the ideal customer for this?
I mean, like you said, there's so many different spaces that this plays in, from the small managed residential space of commercial, like I said, on the first, 2 or 3 floors of commercial space where the building manager wants to know that space and can rent out those units, and then has apartments or condos above that. I mean, this fits ideally into a space like that. And oh, by the way, you don't need a backnet thermostat to do that, because you can add up to 20 thermostats on the app itself and see those. So it's almost like it has its own internal BMS system when you can see and control 20 different thermostats via just the app itself, by itself. But then it also expands. I mean, like I said, there's so many different opportunities. You can go into managed residential space of senior living. Senior living is one of the booming things that's growing across this country. I can't wait to move into one so I don't have to cook, clean, and do other things anymore. But it's the same thing, being able to control that space, but then locking out certain functions and features where, hey, you can only go so high or so low on the temperature or change things. But then as a building owner, I can see everything that's going on in my building. And then it explodes even up further. We're bidding on projects that are 300-400 units of condo space. And it fits still into that space because you can interconnect all these together and gather that information and data. So when you sit there and say, is there an ideal customer?
Yeah.
I go from my house to a large condo.
So maybe we should just rename this thing the Nest Killer. So Kenny, speaking of that, now I know these guys got 6 sensors. How many sensors does Nest have, for example?
Nest has a fairly good amount. They have 5. Across the board, you've got Viconics. They have 3. Ecobee has 3. Honeywell has 2. I mean, the commissioning process, the levels of difficulty are rated. We're going to post a
comparison.
We're going to put the comparison chart. I already have it already done up as a post. And so you're going to see it in the picture's worth 1,000 words, but it goes to the BACnet certification, who has it, who doesn't. Siemens does, of course. The others don't. Well, Honeywell does too, I'm sorry. Indoor air sensor, the quality sensor, just Siemens. Energy consumption, you have 3 out of the 5 Siemens does, of course. Commissioning time, Siemens is the lowest, and indoor sensor, Siemens had the most. So I think clearly you guys did your homework and you came up with some very strong features, and in the feature benefit presentation have seemed to have the highest marks across the board. But you said something earlier offline, and I want to make sure I understood it right, is you also are working with an open API, so that people that are really into the master systems integration and whatever, Siemens thermostat plays nice so that people can put whatever they want or use the internal data of Siemens's thermostat, the RDS 120, in capacities that we don't even know yet what people might want to do or how they want to integrate that information. Is that correct?
Correct. And that's that open API. So that allows third-party I want to say home automation or the Alexas and those types of opportunities to integrate your thermostat into their space. We currently don't offer that with Alexa because that's not our target market, is the home individual user, but that is on our roadmap. How do we improve that so that home automation from a home standpoint, even though it could be a home unit is a condo, but in a larger BMS system, as part of that ecosystem, right? So how do we still satisfy that condo owner and give him that home automation or her that home automation opportunity in still, as me being the building owner or operator, has visibility into that same space.
Very cool.
I had one more thing. Last one is that it's a beautiful thermostat. It's pretty. It's got like a Euro design to it. And I'm wondering about that footprint. Is that footprint big enough to put an analog output into it?
We'll evaluate that.
Because if you do that, then you can control a modulated heating valve or cooling valve. Oh my goodness.
That's on the roadmap.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm getting some text here from some of our listeners. There's a Q Tarantino from Hollywood who wants to order one. He thinks it's cool. A B Pitt, Brad Pitt. Yeah, so it looks like this is going to pick up in Hollywood. So once that happens, I tell you what, this sky's the limit, big guy. So how do people get more information about it, Bill? Best website other than sending?
Yeah, I mean, you can just do a search for Siemens Smart Thermostat, and we have a website that's up that has all the information, some cool videos on it. It's very intuitive, very easy to install. I mean, in the beta trial, I actually was in the process of getting a new HVAC system at my house, and I gave the guy the thermostat and said, "Here, install this." And he's like, "What is this?" I said, "It's our new smart thermostat." Yeah. He installed it, said, "This was great. This is so easy. How do I get one?"
Yeah, dude, I tell you what, we were talking offline about, well, we should do some sort of training on it, but that'd be kind of a waste of time because it's so dadgum easy to use, right, and set up. So it's exciting stuff. Very, very exciting stuff. Kenny, do we have a thermostat to give away?
Yes, we do. Bill, we're trying to think of the smartest way. We worked with Mickey. Mickey said that that she was excited that we were doing this, and that as a just sign of goodwill here, that she wanted us to give a thermostat away. We're trying to figure out the best way to do it. Eric,
so I got an idea here. So all right, so email us, which is a Controltrends Marketing Pro, ctmarketingpro@gmail.com. Which Hollywood movie star or music star should have the thermostat? And Kenny and I will we'll do two things. First of all, we'll match the offer. We will send one of those thermostats, try to get it to that movie star. The person that gets the most votes. So if it's Quentin Tarantino, we'll send him one from Controltrends. And then we will give you a really swell prize as well, maybe a ticket to the Controltrends Awards or something like that. So again, the offer is, think about, based on what you heard about this thermostat, who in Hollywood or what famous musician would this be the best thermostat? See, I'm thinking Bruce Springsteen, man. That would be his kind of thermostat, right? But, email it to us at ctmarketingpro@gmail.com. And Kenny and I will endeavor to we'll do the best we can to get the thermostat from you to Bruce Springsteen or whoever we choose. And then we'll give you a really swell prize as well. How does that sound, guys? Will that work?
I'll make it 2 thermostats you can give away.
There we go. Okay. And then the deal is, if it winds up being Margaret Robbie or Jennifer Aniston, Kenny and I will probably deliver the thermostat personally and install them.
There you go.
All right, Bill. Man, all right. Thank you so much, brother.
Yep. Hey, thank you. I appreciate this opportunity, guys, and good luck to you guys.
Sounds really, really good.
Tell you what, that is such great stuff about the thermostat. I mean, you and I have been tracking that Siemens thermostat since its first iteration. We were impressed with it then, but I mean, with all the additional stuff on it, I mean, how impressed are you with it now?
I'm very impressed because it's a moneymaker. Whoever sells that thermostat and puts it in and whatever, it can generate revenue from it. So in other words, one thing we're trying to do is help the planet get greener, make ourselves more energy efficient, make buildings safer, smarter, and more comfortable. And to do it in this business, you need to have motivation, and that thermostat's a moneymaker. That thermostat in the right hands can make that occupant very happy, but it can also produce data, that new source of revenue, and it can give service contractors, a good opportunity.
An edge, baby, an edge.
Nice edge. Yeah. Well done. Well done.
For sure. Well, listen, our second guest is already lined up. Kenny's teed up. He's ready to come on, chomping at the bits. So without further ado, how about introducing guest number 2?
Love to. Ken St. Clair, the owner, editor, and the oracle of our industry, is joining us here on episode 330. Welcome to the show, Ken St. Clair.
Welcome, Ken.
Thank you very much. You guys call me names again.
We've
Yeah.
added the Oracle now to Notre Dame Sinclair, to Auto
Heck
Sinclair,
yeah.
to the smartest guy on the internet. I mean, you just got so many. Which one's going to stick is a question I got to ask. But hey, we'll table that, dude. Lots going on, man. We normally get you the first part of the month, but I was out. So if you don't mind, let's start with a little bit, some of the highlights of the September issue, and then we'll prequel to October, and then talk about some other stuff.
Okay, it's been an interesting issue. We got started with the building the backbone. It intrigued me that actually I'm still talking about Realcomm, I guess, is that I went lots of sessions there. Well, you guys were busy working. I actually went around to a lot of the sessions. But anyway, this whole idea that the backbone is turning to fiber in the building, and because of the cost of installing that is not as prohibitive as it was in the old days, and a lot of folks are actually doing their own in-house wireless. They kind of building a different kind of building that has a glass backbone and basically their own antenna systems. And they're doing this both in retrofit, where there is no networks in the building of any significance, and they're doing it for cell phone survival, and then it's easier to piggyback some of this new 5G stuff. So anyway, that's sort of the gist, and so I tried to make that into something interesting, so I called it Building Backbones and Wireless Skin.
Nice.
Yeah, so if you can kind of imagine that. So we got the building that we used to know that was pretty chunky and substantial now has a very, very, very fine glass backbone with a whole bunch of wireless stuff. And anyway, we got some real good responses to that. Scott Cochran talked a lot about APIs and basically apps, how they're going to drag some of that stuff and that whole wireless floating stuff, and how we bring that into our mix.
Well, hang on real quick, Ken. Back up real quick. And Kenny, I think I do have a new name for Ken. I think this one will stick, which it should be Shakespeare Sinclair, because the man can turn a phrase for sure. But just
God, I didn't think you noticed.
Yeah. Nice. But sort of someone, I mean, maybe another way to sort of approach this is like, say, 5G is upon us. You've done sort of a deep dive into it. Realcomm did. For our listeners out there, and obviously they can go to the September issue of automatedbuildings.com to do a deeper dive, but sort of give us a thumbnail sketch. What does the average contractor building owner need to know about 5G? How's that going to affect things? And do they need to get on to it now? Can they wait till later? How do they prepare for it?
Well, my shot on it, which I may not be right, but what I'm thinking is going to happen is that 5G is amazing. It's radically going to change wireless communications, but I'm not sure that it's going to be rolled out by the cell providers. And the reason for that is that it's very complex, and half of the stuff hasn't been quite invented yet. But portions of it are quite well invented and defined. And what we're going to see, I think, is the very educated, the very leading edge building people actually rolling what we call 5G-like services out. And you've seen some of this, you've been excited about it too, in the fact of location services, basically heat mapping where the people are in the site, the way Google traffic works and tells you where the traffic jams is by looking where all the cell phones are. So that kind of technology trawled over traditional technology is easy to deploy when you have your own antenna systems. And that's what much the chatter was about at Realcomm, was in-house wireless was what they were calling it. And there were several people, there was even a pavilion about that. So that's a big shift. So I think what they need to know is that when they go into a building, they need to ask the question, if they're hosting their own wireless systems, do they have location services? And actually that's in the article that links to our editorial, which Building Backbones, if you click there, There's actually an article, a review called Building Backbones. Actually, maybe let me just read the last questions because they're kind of startling. The last questions of that article say, this is a question for the contractor to ask when he comes to the meeting. Will copper be used anywhere? And at what point and for which networks and why? Who will supply and install the fiber backbone in the building? What wireless in-building services protocols will be provided and how will they be propagated within the building and near field? Do we supply wireless edge devices only? Are we allowed to create our own networks within the building? Who is the master systems integrator, a new word, or professional integrator? Interesting. How are outside service providers handled within the building? In other words, how are the traditional cell people? Are we selling services to them? Because in the past, they basically put their antenna systems in our buildings, but we're starting to see a situation where the building owner might provide his own antenna systems. Next question, are there wayfinding and people heat mapping part of the design using whose platform? Next one, are these platforms open and available for edge device propagation? Big question. Questions like this will radically lead us to our next level of learning on our journey to help us solve our education emergency. So you can kind of see that's the kind of thinking that I think the industry needs to look at.
Well, I printed that out. That's a great capture. I mean, there's a lot of meat on that bone. In other words, it's a summary of the future of communications in the backbones in buildings for sure. And then you end it with an amazing, start to another major concern, which is where are we going to get all the talent to make all this technology real? And we had talked offline initially about, the labor shortages and bringing, this talent into the HVAC industry, to really and truly take advantage of this technology that's here already and the emerging technologies that are right on the cusp to include 5G, which is going to, I was reading an article, 5G is going to change the way we live, period. It's going to be like in Star Wars or in Star Trek when you go into, warp speed, because the speed that it offers and the immediacy of information is something that we've never experienced before. And once we get a taste of it, autonomous vehicles is just the tip of the iceberg. So we're going to see information exchanged so quickly that it's going to make life more interesting, easier. There's so many different ideas, but the point of the whole comment here is talent and how do we get more talent into our industry. I had just read an article from the, it's really good. I think this is worth passing this on. It came out of the news. It's called the HVAC Workforce Development Issue, Solutions for the HVAC Workforce Problem. And what they did was they had a board, 6 people, 6 experts from 6 different points of view about the industry, gave serious comment to, very important things like, the who has the budgets to attract people, the colleges, long story short, trade schools get out hustled and maneuvered, great, take on that. And then another guy says about, hey, the Department of, the Bureau of Labor Statistics doesn't have the right numbers for the people earn when they start out. Thus, subsequently, when people are looking for information and whatever, there's not a real desire to put our best foot forward and put us in the best light. That we are a very high earning trade and industry, and yet the perception is that it's not. So, Ken, you have a lot of ideas, and you've got some things on the agenda for AHR show that are going to help again just accelerate the whole process. Bring positive light. We have the Controltrends Young Guns Awards coming. What do you have planned for AHR?
Okay, great. We've worked our way up to 12 sessions, which is a world record for us. In the old days, the first one I did 1 session, and then it kind of evolved to about 4 sessions, and we kind of did that for a while. And this year we've got 12 sessions going, and I suspect over half of them speak to the problem of getting folks and retraining folks. It's actually not only just getting folks into our industry, we have to retain the people in our industry because the other industries are stealing them, and our people are so smart, they want to come and grab them, and that's a problem. And then in addition to them being so smart, we need to retrain them because our industry is changing so rapidly that they need to know a whole lot more than they did. Anyway, so let me just touch on the titles of a couple of our training sessions at AHR. First one is Scott Cochran, and what he's trying to do is he's building system integration. Welcome to the jungle, starting block to become an integrator. So here we have people who are pretty knowledgeable in our industry, and he's trying to up the pace and make them into systems integrators. Next one is with Therese, pulling more women into the ranks of smart building leadership. Another source for us is to try and get more women involved in our industry. And then Scott, Brad, and I are speaking to the attraction and retention of hyper-digital, IP-enabled Millennium and Generation Z. So you can see that we're kind of picking right at that. And then the next one is we do a session talking on how to become IP-enabled people and products. This whole shift we have to come across the floor, we have to transition into that. Even the haystack one kind of suggests, the continuation evolution of somatic tagging and what it is and why it matters. Then our young guns, the next generation of HVAC controls, open discussion for open future. That has Brad, Calvin, Zach, and Nicholas back again for, we're going to reignite that energy that we had from that overflowing session last year in Atlanta. There's some exciting stuff coming. I don't know if you saw in our September issue, Calvin does gives you a do-it-yourself for building a building controller all in one session and shows you exactly how to do that. Just a whole bunch of stuff going on. And then we're going to take our collaboratory. We've got vision there. We're talking about this whole occupant experience side of it. Then actually, Scotty's got a section, the extinction of the temperature control contractor and the evolution of the MSI. It's an interesting discussion. So just at the fact that all these contractors have to step up their game. Then in addition to that, we got, and there's more, like the guy with the knife here, there's more. Our concurrent sessions, where our room's full for the day, and we've got captured another room, and we've got Scotty Bohm of Tritium, or actually Vicon, as he's building himself here. Building Automation 101, control at your fingertips, sorry about that. And I think what we're trying to do too is we're trying to make our industry as exciting as it is. And then we've got Phil Zito doing a crafting your skill set for a new career in building automation. So what he's trying to do is provide a method across the floor. So when you come, if you're in another industry and you have some of this skill set, how do I reapply that skill set to try and get a toehold on the building automation? And actually, just closing up all of those sessions, just talking to Leo up at the George Brown College in Toronto, and they've been running the last couple of years a BAS program, college degree, and this year there was fights for their people. Their whole class was consumed. Some companies took 2 and 3, and the kids were absolutely bewildered as to what company to go with and what opportunity to follow. So there is another real-time example.
Well, Phil Zita says in his little caption that there's our industry presently has a 300,000 professional shortfall. 300,000 people in order to close this gap, and then that's what he's going to address his theme on. But imagine that there's a shortage to the point where you can say 300,000 people are needed in our industry to fill all the gaps and the opportunities. So it's pretty impressive. Very
impressive. Well, I think scary might be a better word than impressive.
Right,
and that's true. That's true.
Right. Well, and Shakespeare, I want to acknowledge you for a couple of things. If our audience who might not know, these are sessions to go on in AHR. AHR will be this year in Orlando, Florida. So if you're going to the show, you definitely want to attend these sessions. Ken, I mean, I think the first time we started working with you on these sessions, you were doing 1 or 2, and now you got 12. So I think that speaks volumes about how useful these are to people in our industry. So we'll be able to get you more details on that as we get closer to the show, but just mark your calendar for AHR because there's going to be 2 great events there. You know, obviously Ken and what he's doing, AHR, and then of course the Controltrends Awards. But Shakespeare Sinclair, there's something else I want to acknowledge you for, which is, you know, and this gets back to your Notre Dame side. Notre Dame was a great predictor that predicted all kinds of things that were going to happen in the future. Is it, you know, you talked about the building owner experience before anybody was even talking about that. And then we just had another interview, and more manufacturers now, they're taking heed to that. They're realizing that they have to address the experience and create an occupant experience. So I wanted to acknowledge you for that because you're the first person I knew that started talking about that. Now it's coming to fruition. And it seems like your October issue is going to be dealing with sort of the next evolution of that. So speak a bit about the October issue and the building owner occupant experience and how that's going to be transformed to the next level.
Yes, the theme for October is going to be building user connection. Building user connection. And I've got an article out now that's actually online that gives you a little bit of insight to the direction of the issue. And this is with Connected Contractor. And believe it or not, we actually have 50 chapters of an online resource we're calling the Building Book of Digital Transformation. So basically what we've done is we've just taken all of our articles and stuffed them together, and they actually, it's amazing how they kind of just fall into form a digital online book. So you can kind of see what we're chatting about there. But it's interesting, and in that article I make play at Kenneth's name calling here of an industry oracle. So we've been playing around with that. So we link to what you've been working for. But what we're talking about now is this, if we go through the glass backbone and we talk about the wireless skin, is all of these people, all these users of the building somehow have to, they have to fit into how we're going to interface with the building. And this is completely new to us as an industry, and to me, as you seem to feel I have some expertise in this, which I really don't. And I just gather content. I'm a content connector, so I basically see somebody talking about this and somebody talking about that, but they're kind of the same thing, and I try to pull them together to try and see if there's a story in there as an industry we can use to move forward. But anyway, some pretty interesting stuff came out of that. The basic play that we need to look more at what's happening in the autonomous vehicle industry, because what we really need to get to is we need to get to autonomous buildings. And so when you come into a building, as the picture on your phone appears on the screen in your car, it basically needs to appear near you on your desk, maybe not on a screen, maybe in a virtualization, a hologram, or whatever the medium is of the day. But the building needs to be aware that you're there. You need to be aware of the services within the building. And there's a lot of this awareness going on in the autonomous vehicle. And again, we worked with Suha, and she's basically been working in that area as well. There's a great graphic that was provided in a site an article that was in our September issue. It's called Establishing a Smart Building Industry Standard. And he's just talking about when we go to a meeting, we spend half of our meeting trying to talk about what is a smart building or what it is we each do. And we need to try and get some categories around this so we can actually talk fast. And we need to come to some kind of an agreement. What is an autonomous building and what are some of the features of it? So anyway, we start talking about that, and there's some movements that we need to know about. The Open Mobility Foundation is a organization that a lot of the cities are starting to look at. So we have to take a look at what's happening in smart cities. In fact, I'm working on the next piece here of this, and it's actually called Smart City Building. And it's, so the buildings, of course, are the bulk of the smart city. And we've been kind of working in isolation, but we need to look a lot harder at what the smart city movement is doing, and how they're pulling themselves together. They've got a myriad of stuff. They've got all this information that's coming to them. I hadn't even seen it. The scooter networks, knowing where these electric scooters are. They have all of that data. They have all the data from Ubers and all of their transport systems. They have their parking systems, which tell them where the cars are in the city. All of this information somehow has to be sorted out and dealt with. So that's the kind of thing the Open Mobility Foundation is working for. We need to be providers of open data to that. The buildings have to meld into the smart city, and all of that information has to be exchanged. Not sure how that's all going to happen, but at fact, just acknowledging it. And there is some stuff that is arriving. Against Suha, she basically talks about how we need to design. I thought it was an interesting twist. We need to design for artificial intelligence. We know we're going to use it. We've been basically doing our designs, and then we add artificial intelligence. We can't do that. We need to actually design, because we know that data is going to be available. How are we going to use that data? How are we going to use that data in a autonomous model? Too much said?
No, I'm following it because again, I'm on your website and I'm going down the Sudha's article there, but see what Eric had said earlier, and we're blowing positive, naming your way because of the Nostradamus and the Oracle and everything, and you're just saying you're connecting information. Well, that is part of it. That is probably the most difficult thing, is to be able to filter through all these developments. We're talking about building empathy, and some of these things that were kind of like oxymorons. They really like business ethics. That was one of my first oxymorons that I had to write an article about when I was going through school. And it because one didn't seem to belong to the other, and yet you're seeing all these juxtapositions that you've done actually have come together to become synthesis. It reminds me of you have a thesis, you have an antithesis, and then you have synthesis. You've been able to pick out, the important pieces and then the opposite pieces, the headwinds, whatever, and then draw them into where they're going to actually dovetail and come together through technology. Basically, IoT has made a lot of what we're talking about possible. And you say 5G, 5G, what it means to you, and autonomous vehicles, and what it means to me, and buildings, whatever. But basically, things are going to move 1,000 times faster. Download speeds are going to be seconds instead of 30 seconds or a minute or whatever. So when you're saying coming together to build open mobility movement, and you're going to have established small buildings or smart building standards, whatever, basically the bottom line is it's data. Everything's producing data, some of that's very relevant and very important. So you've got to create the protocols or put the communications or the networks in that makes that data extendable. So whoever needs it. So you need, as a manufacturer, you're going to produce something that generates data. You should make that as easy and as enlightening, as integratable as possible, right? Isn't that what you're trying to say sometimes, or am I misunderstanding that?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm trying to say. The whole 5G experience, the definition I think you're looking for is near real time, and that's basically what's happening. Is the data is coming at you so quick that for the human mind it happened in real time. As we see something, we break. It's sort of almost like a reaction. as now the cameras and these automatic braking systems that are in some of the new vehicles, that happens. They've got the forward-looking camera. They see something, the distance is getting too great. They alarm. They basically automatically brake. And ironically enough, sorry, my watch is trying to talk to me. Sorry. So they basically all of that occurs in near real time. Looking at it from a computer point, there's probably a bunch of nanoseconds in between there, but we can't perceive that. And ironically enough, the industry is coming to recognize that. I just bought a new car and it came with that, and 10% off your insurance if in fact you have the automatic braking. So here we got a camera stuck on the front of a car looking at the car in front of you, and it will automatically apply the brakes. There's a discount for that. So the industry is starting to accept some of this stuff. We need to understand how we're going to use some of these technologies in our buildings.
Great point. And I tell you, it gets back to a statement Kenny and I've had for a long time, which is nothing is obvious to the uninformed. And I think, Notre Dame, Oracle, Shakespeare, Sinclair, you would agree that, it's not that we in our many years in the industry haven't seen change. We just haven't seen it come this rapidly. And the rate of change is, I think it's going to be a constant. It's going to continue to increase the rate of change. So why is this important when we're talking about all this stuff? It's because, hey, if you want, the stuff's going to be coming so fast at you that if you want to know how to react to it, this gives you a preview. Ken, I mean, you've been very accurate with the trends predicting. We've been, doing these shows with you for 3 or 4 years now. And it's astounding to me, Kenny, how right on Ken is. So this is, we appreciate what you bring, Ken, to our audience and our community. We encourage our community to check out both the September issue of AutomatedBuildings.com as well as the October issue coming out. And then also to make sure you sign up for Ken's classes at AHR, his breakout sessions. And we'll when we get the sign-up sheets for that, we'll make sure we get those to you so you can do that. But Ken, anything else you want to speak about before we hop off?
Yeah, I'd just like to close with really what I'm doing here is that I'm just a content connector. There's basically all this amazing content out there, and if anything, there's almost too much of it. And what I'm trying to do is highlight stuff that I think is important and that are pieces of the puzzle. And I don't really want to get in between all of this excellent content. And I sometimes pass an opinion, but more often what I do is just connect you to that article and say, you should look at this, you should look at that. These two things are going to bang into each other and we're going to get squished in the middle. That's my purpose. And by you reading those articles, you may see a completely different path of how this is going to occur. So I think the importance is just to try and highlight current content that's been talked about. Actually, another barometer I use is on social media, like what's being talked about. You put something out there, and some of these articles we threw out on our September issue, I posted them on LinkedIn, and we're up into the 6,000 and 7,000 reads, and 40 people commenting on, and a whole discussion has broke out. There's obviously some interest in that, so that's content that you guys should kind of look at. It's not me understanding what the hell's going on. I'm just seeing all these pieces.
No, dude, Ken, you're like the ultimate wingman when it comes to this. You were the conversation starter. So, like I said, we were all 30 years younger and not married. You'd be the guy we want to have going up to the girls at the bar, going, "Hey, what do you think about smart buildings or whatever?" Right?
Yeah, I was the guy who used to pick the little guy that used to pick the fight, and then he would wiggle away and let the big guys fight it out.
I got you, brother. I got you. Well, Ken, thanks so much, man. We appreciate you taking the time to come talk to our audience.
Super.
AutomatedBuildings.com. Check it out. So there you go, Kenny, man. Ken Sinclair, as always, man, very, very insightful stuff. He's a guy you got to pay attention to because I really think he's seen into the future. That's like I said in the interview. It's something it's uncanny He sort of has his finger on the pulse of what's going on.
Well, I'll tell you, but people don't realize how much work he puts into it. Well, you said so. He's clairvoyant. He's Nostradamus. He's Oracle, and now he's Shakespeare. So he's got
Shakespeare Sinclair. I think his kids need to maybe consider naming one of his grandchildren Shakespeare Sinclair after him. So I like that a lot. All right, buddy. Anything else before we wrap it up?
No, I just, again, we got a full head of steam. Things are getting busy now. We're coming into the end of September, and we're approaching, the calendar visibility is increasing. AHR is going to be in a huge event. Right prior to that, we got the Controltrends Awards event. And it's just a lot of really important technologies are coming into play. So between now and the release of our categories, which should be in the very near future this week, we're going to begin the Controltrends voting process through the nomination. First phase is nominating the top people, solutions, and products in each category.
That's going to be fantastic. So there you go, man. That's another week on Control Talk Now, your Smart Buildings videocast and podcast. Special thanks to our two guests this week. Be sure to check both of them out. And with that, I will leave you with be bold, stay in control, and stay relevant.
Indeed, Eric.
Indeed.
That looks like a field goal post sometimes, you know, if you did that, right? Yeah.
Indeed. Okay. Indeed, Kenny Smart. There you go. Perfect. And we cover that.